guys, I wanted to go over this lesson with you for a little bit. So this question was your exit question for lesson 10. So what you needed to know was that Kieran had spent $12 and that games cost 25 cents, rides cost $1. So then down here, it told you that X was the number of games and Y was the number of rides. So the equation that you should have written there was 25 cents times the number of games, X, plus $1 times the number of rides, Y, equaled 12. So that's the equation that you should have had there. The graph was C, and C represented this because this equation starts at 12, and then the slope goes down 1 over 4. So it's negative 1/4 is the slope, and that's the slope that you had in your equation. So that's why we chose that, because it starts at 12 and goes down 1 over 4. So it represents that situation for us. All right. So the next couple of slides ask you to rewrite each quotient or sum, or each quotient as a sum or difference. So quotient here just tells us that we're looking for the answer to a division problem. And then sum is going to be addition, difference is subtraction. So we have 4x minus 10 divided by 2. So we're just going to split that up and take each part and divide it by 2. So I'm going to have 4x divided by 2, and I'm going to have negative 10 divided by 2. So I'm just splitting it and then simplifying that. 4x divided by 2 is 2x, and negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5, and you write that as minus 5. All right, if I take that and add a y equals to that, I then have an equation in slope-intercept form, and I can see that the slope is 2. So slope, or m, equals 2. And then the y-intercept is negative 5. And so you write that as 0, negative 5 if you're writing the y-intercept. Okay. So let's look at another one. So here we have 1 minus 50x divided by negative 2. You would do the same thing. And so 1 divided by negative 2. And then negative 50x divided by negative 2. So 1 divided by negative 2 is just going to be negative 1/2. And negative 50x divided by negative 2, and negative divided by negative makes a positive. So we're going to have plus 25x. And so you can see here, if I ask you where the slope and the y-intercept are, the slope would be 25 and the y-intercept would be negative 1/2. As an ordered pair, it's 0, negative 1/2. Okay. Here, this one's a little more involved. We have to do the distributive properties before we move on. So 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 10 is 50. So we have to divide that by 25. So then we can split each part and get our sum or difference. So 5x divided by 25 becomes 1/5 x, and 50 divided by 25 is 2. Okay, so you have 1/5 x plus 2. Okay. Oh, so here our slope would be 1/5 and our y-intercept would be 2. For the next one, you're still going to do the same thing. Negative 1/5 divided by 2. That has an x on it. And then 5 divided by 2. Okay. So negative 1/5 divided by 2. I want to show you a little trick on your calculator. If you hit the calculator key, let me move this box so you can see there. Okay. So you can type this in your calculator so that you can see it. If you type negative 1 divided by 5, it makes that fraction for you. If you use the arrow key, you can now divide that by 2, and it will give us -1/10. And you can hit the fraction key to turn it into a fraction for you. So something I want you to be cognitive of is when you're using fractions and decimals. So when we're writing equations, if you get a decimal that is repeating, then you want to make it a fraction. Here, 1/10 ends, so you could use -0.1, but for our sake, let's just leave everything as a fraction. So it's -1/10 x, and then we have 5 divided by 2. We're going to just leave that as 5 halves. Okay, or you could put 2.5. That would also be correct since it's a terminating decimal. Okay. Move this back over here for us. All right, so here we were looking at two graphs, and what I wanted you to do here was put a dot where the 450 is. So the 450 on this graph is right here, and it represents the y-intercept. So that is your y-intercept. It's the point on the graph where it crosses the y-axis. And this problem is talking about a tank of water being filled up. So 450 represents the amount of water that's in the tank initially. Okay. The -20, we can see that on the graph because it's the slope. If you pick 2 points going through a specific point, here's one and here's another one, you can find the slope there, and it goes down 50, so 200, so it's going down 200 here, and over 10, so you have -200 divided by 10, and that simplifies to -20, and so that is your slope. What the slope tells us is that you're losing 20 gallons every minute. So you start out with 450 gallons, and then you lose 20 gallons every minute. So that's what those numbers represented in context. And we can see that because this equation, A equals 450 minus 20t, is already in slope-intercept form. Okay, so that is important to know that that's in slope-intercept form. The other equation that we're given here on slide 11 is referring to that next graph, and it's talking about the figs and almonds. And so here we have the equation 6x plus 9y equals 75. So this equation is in standard form, and for us to be able to see the 6, 9, or 75 on a graph, well, we can't see those. That tells us that figs cost $6, or almonds are $6 and figs are $9, and we spent $75. So we can't see the slope and the y-intercept in standard form. So you have to rearrange it to be in slope-intercept form. So this equation is in standard form, and we want it in slope-intercept form to see those things. To do that, you subtract the 6x from both sides. Bring down, so 6x minus 6x cancel out, it's 0. So we bring down the 9y. And 75 and -6x are not like terms, so we can't combine them. So we just write down what we have. -6x plus 75. And then we divide both sides by 9. And what you notice here is that we have one of those quotients that you just solved previously. So you do the same thing to solve for that. And so 9 divided by 9 gives us y. And then we have -6x divided by 9 gives us -2/3 x. And then 75 divided by 9, we want to leave that as a fraction because it's not a whole number, and it's 25/3. Okay, so now we can see these pieces on our graph because we have a slope, or m, is -2/3. And we have a y-intercept at 0, 25/3. And if you type 25 divided by 3 on a calculator, it's approximately 8 1/3. So if we look at the graph, you can see that that y-intercept is about 8 1/3. So it's about right here where the graph starts. And then we can find the slope if we pick 2 points that are going through the corners. We go down 2 over 3. So m is equal to negative 2/3. And we can see that that's our slope. All right. On the next page, you were doing some matching. So you had to do this process for each of those. So I want you to try to do that on your own. It does tell you if you're correct. So if you get a different one, try to match it to the correct one and see if you can figure out how they got that slope and that y-intercept. All right. So good luck and hope this helps you. And let me know if you have any questions. Bye.